Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, hey, welcome into the program. Hopefully everyone out there is having a great day and you are ready for some Computer America. So today, no formal guests, but we do have a special segment for you. Something that we're going to be trying to do more and more here on the show. Instead of just having, a guest every day or computer and technology news, we're also going to be working on longer form content. And our most recent one was how to get into programming. We went over all the resources to learn by yourself. No need to spend any money. You can actually learn these skills on your own and make yourself, get started with a new career. And, we like doing that one so much, we decided to go ahead and do a second one here today. And I don't think, of course, just to be upfront here, I don't think we are going to put the final nail in the coffin, but today is going to be all about the positives and the negatives and what you can do to curb, or also we're going to have stories about people who have given up social media, or is social media worth giving up, or is social media a good thing or a bad thing? All that we are going to be covering here in the first segment. Second segment, if we have time, computer and technology news, but we're going to allow as much time as we feel we need to get into social media. And, this is something that we have, of course, been batting back and forth. Actually, before we get started, why don't we go ahead and start with the obvious, computeramerica.com. That is our website. If you feel like you want to check out anything, we will include links to any articles, any journals that we talk about, just anything and everything about today's show you can find at computeramerica.com. All you have to do is find today's show notes. And of course, the video archive is also available on our YouTube channel. Definitely go subscribe there. And hey, wherever podcasts are heard, you can hear after the show. After the radio program, we rebroadcast wherever podcasts are heard. Simply search Computer America and you'll be good to go. Okay, now, all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Again, I hope everyone out there is having a great day. And as I said, we are dedicating this first segment to all things social media. And this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a little while now, because just more and more research all the time is coming out, and you're hit with articles lately about really the negative impact of social media. It really hit in apex, sometime after the 2016 election, when they were talking about election meddling and things like that. But I think for a long time there had been an undercurrent of negative feedback from social media. And I'm not even talking about fake news. I'm talking about the impact it has on teenagers and kids and even adults who happen to immerse themselves in social media, what's happening in the world around them. We're seeing a lot of negative consequences, but there has to be some positives in there for this to keep happening, for people to keep jumping back in. Why did they do that? And, as someone who, of course, if you interact with Computer America on any of our social media, and yes, Computer America has a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. We don't have a Snapchat, but those other three, if you interact with Computer America on social media, hey, you're probably interacting with myself or some of the other people that work here. And overall, we try to engage our audience because we are our audience, but at the same time, we're taking a very measured step towards social media. Definitely don't live in social media 24/7, not accessible 24/7 in that. And I'm going to kind of include email in there as well, because let's face it, being available by email is just as addictive as social media is. So I thought a good way to break this thing down, and there's going to be a lot to cover. I'm going to try my best to not jump from one to the next, but let's talk about the positives of social media. I think these are the things that, the reason that social media has become such a boon to our society, and the reason that billions, and I mean billions with a B, use social media actively, there has to be a reason. So let's check out some of the positives. And I have a couple articles here. I apologize early on if a couple of them overlap, but hey, we're going to get into this. So this first article here, this was actually just published August 1st, 2018. So a couple months ago. Trust me, when it comes to this topic, there are articles and journals and things like that written from like 2007, 8, 9 that just really aren't applicable. Trying to keep everything as recent as possible. But so let's go ahead and start off with this first one. And everyone, again, if you want to go to computeramerica.com, we have the video portion right there, front and center, or twitch.tv/computeramerica, and you can follow along with us in the articles. Now, our first one. Smart Social, Learn How to Shine Online, and it's a great publication, it's a great article, and we're going to go, some of the positives of social media. Why do we do this kind of thing? What are some of the good outcomes of social media being such a big part in our society? And hey, this was a pretty good starting point. So here we go. Point number one, and by the way, the article mentions that in this post, learn how social media provides a platform to showcase technological savvy can be used to empower students, creates an opportunity for an open dialogue, and more. And there are some positives. So here we go. Number one, we're going to talk about each one of these. Younger students can feel empowered by teaching older relatives how to use technology. Obviously, this comes into play whenever you try to get, grandma into email or, sharing on Facebook. It's something that kids and teenagers pick up very intuitively, very, very quickly, and their I don't want to call it rudimentary knowledge, but their knowledge and savviness of social media at the same time really shows just their learning skills. They're learning skills that their older peers don't really know. They are still trying to get a grasp on, and maybe a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old teaching a 70, 80, 90-year-old how to use social media will show them that, hey, I can do things that other people can't, and it's really important. So this coming to us from Adam C. Einhart, PhD, from Youngstown State University, saying, in meeting with senior citizens, I've heard great stories about their grandchildren and social media. What I've found is that more teens and tweens are connecting with older family members, not just through social media, but by teaching their grandparents how to set up their accounts and stay connected. It's a wonderful combination of high tech and high touch for both age groups. Teens and tweens feel self-worth by teaching new technology to the much older and wiser, while the older group gets to feel better connected with their grandchildren and, of course, with communities. So, hey, great first point. Social media connects people, and not just by letting you send emojis or GIFs or stories and links and clicks and likes and so on and so forth, but it allows people to share a common goal, and that's to, just have an open dialogue with one another. So that's point number one. And again, if you're just joining us, welcome into the show. We're going over the positive impacts of social media before we get to the numerous negative impacts. And I just really wanted to highlight that social media isn't all bad, but so that's where we are. Number two, social media provides parents an opportunity for open communication. And this may be, this makes sense. So this is a counselor, Nikia Lowry, and saying that adolescent years are a time when children are attempting to master their identities and finding their place in society. Social media has allowed teens to develop a voice of advocacy, the ability to see who is following who, and the reactions from posts reinforces a sense of belonging. This can be a very positive influence when exposed to the right outlets, especially for teens who do not have a large group of friends. So there you go. Of course, parents can develop a relationship online with their teens, encourage teens to engage in positive social platforms to help them identify and set boundaries and expectations, such as not accepting friend requests from strangers, think before posting, things like that. And also, it helps teens understand their purpose of social media accounts, what they hope to gain from posting certain things, and what their accounts are communicating. So clearly, you could have that dialogue with your kid about just really, even though the dialogue would mostly be centered around the purpose of social media, and it's not going to be about much else, but then you start to just have another way to connect to your kid and say, hey, here's what you do, here's what you don't do. And hey, maybe that grows into other areas of their life. You build that trust, you build that, and hey, connections. So very simple. Number 3, social media can help students learn essential job skills. And this is from a reputationmanagement.com, Jonas Sickler, saying that social media definitely helps teens learn to take criticism from strangers without being drawn into a digital dogfight. This can be a real challenge for young minds looking to express themselves and a valuable lesson to learn before getting a job. So obviously, having that dialogue with someone who maybe doesn't agree with you and doing it in a civil, open space so that you get that immediate feedback, where if you go a step out of line or you kind of go too far, then hey, that feedback that's not okay is very immediate and happens in a public place. That's good. Let's see. So 4, we're not really going to cover. Social media can lead to more communication. Makes sense. Students can use technology to form study groups. This is something that I noticed in college, especially, starting college at the very start of kind of Facebook taking off and continuing through my education and, with social media being a thing. Study groups for every single class, social groups, much more common. And in fact, in the last year, they've decided to actually include that in the syllabus in some way, in some classes, where hey, here is a Facebook group dedicated entirely to this class's studies. Just a better way to get people to reach out and talk to one another, where if you're shy or you don't normally make friends like that, it's a good way to still stay connected to an important peer group. Okay. Next one, social media provides a platform to showcase technological savvy and creativity. Obviously, social media, great for sharing artwork, content, music, movies, entertainment, anything like that. It's a great way to, to get your stuff out there and talk with others and connect with others and see what they think of what it is that you're doing. And of course, strengthens social awareness and empathy, the ability to create lifelong friends, so on and so forth. Okay. So, number 7, social media offers students a way to stay in touch with friends if they move. Pretty obvious, don't need to get into that one. Obviously, if people are far away, social media closes the gap digitally and you can continue to, to kind of talk with them. Okay, so that's number 7. Number 8, students can leverage social media to promote their civic engagement. That's good. 9, students can utilize social media to spread social awareness and kindness. This is something that has actually been happening a lot lately. And that's where students will take to social media. Students will take to social media and they will think of the Arab Spring that happened back in 2011 or 14. It seems like so long ago. Arab Spring, and where students who were upset about a cause, of course there's a lot more to go into that, but essentially they're able to get together, spread the message on social media, realize that something is not right, and they're able to organize, form, and express themselves online and share this with one another in very quick succession. This has never really been possible before. Before my generation, there was television, and then before that generation, there was radio, and only a few arbiters actually controlled that. There were only so many radio show hosts, there were only so many TV commentators, there were only so many TV channels. Now anyone with a purpose and a cause that resonates with people can hop on social media and find their audience, spread the word, spread the message. And in a lot of ways, this has been done for good. Things go viral. I'm sure you've heard of the term viral. And that's why we see situations where, let's say a cancer patient is, having a rough time of it, and all they wanted were birthday cards. And suddenly the internet takes it, spreads it, and suddenly they are inundated with 45,000 birthday cards from complete strangers. Or others, GoFundMe, Kickstarters that support certain causes. I mean, there's lots of positivity that comes out of connecting on social media and being a part of that, even if, especially because odds are you're not going to be on the receiving end of it. But if you can be a part of it, you can feel like you're helping others, and a lot of little efforts make a huge effort. So that's another great thing about social media. And the last one for this list, students can learn new things from social media, which is, of course, something that we covered with our programming. If you ever wanted to get into programming or woodworking or shark tagging or reef curation or archaeology, odds are there are groups of people somewhere on social media who share your interest and are actively pursuing it that you could go out and, of course, connect with. So there you go. Those are some of the those are some of the positive impacts of social media, and definitely wanted to highlight those because, we're going to get into some of the negatives, and there's a reason that social media is so popular, and it does all of those things, and it does something that nothing else can really do, and that's form organizations, that forms groups, that forms associations that you would never ever be able to interact with and see things that you would never thought you'd be able to see. But that has its downsides. So before we get to that, we're going to go ahead and do one more. So that one, obviously, it was highly focused on teens and kids growing up and students and things like that. We have one more article here. We're going to breeze right through this one and then go on to our, our next topic. But 7 ways that social media is affecting us positively. And this is from Curati. All of this, everyone, don't worry about trying to find the source or things like that. We're going to include it in the show notes after the show. But this next one, how social media is affecting us positively. Saying that social media is a way to enhance our connectivity. Perfect. We covered that. Social media, an important component of the business strategy. That's kind of why Computer America, of course, still has one. Being able to talk with all of you out there one-on-one or even in groups, it's hugely important, and something that before we just kind of had to say, hey, subscribe to our mailing list, or hey, sign up for email reminders or things like that. But no, not anymore. Now you can send us stuff and we can send you stuff, and it's a much more dynamic relationship that businesses have with their consumers. So that's actually, a fairly huge thing. If you are planning on starting any kind of business, then social media has to be part of your, of your business. Maintaining and curating that social media image is a big part of it. Now, the next one, social media has a lot of benefits for students and teachers, and of course, it can be used for noble causes. We just covered those. Social media helps in building communities, definitely. Social media can benefit mental health as well, where people don't know this, but of course, there are things like the suicide hotline if you are in dire emergencies. But if you are not in emergency, but you're just feeling, really let down, or you're feeling very out of it, there are communities that you can reach out to on Reddit, on Facebook, on, many other places that you can, just kind of message and have someone to communicate with, and they'll help you. Obviously, it should not be your only way to alleviate these, these feelings and thoughts and see a doctor and things like that, but it is a possibility. So definitely want to highlight that. Another one that they have here, or at least the last one, and then we're going to go ahead and move on. Social media is a way to save lives, saying that, of course, there are, as we mentioned, 24-hour suicide prevention hotlines. Spreading awareness and motivating people is important, and simply assuring people that they are not alone can be really important for some. So, of course, definitely a great takeaway. So there you go. We're going to go ahead and switch from that. But okay, so the first 20 minutes of the show really wanted to highlight that there are positives to social media. Don't want to say that it's completely negative and no one should ever do it. But there are negatives. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So a lot more information here, oddly enough, and obviously it makes sense because if you are studying these kinds of things, if you're looking for any kind of, if you're looking for some kind of impact, the positive impacts, you're going to passively learn those and it's going to be good. But then the negative impacts, you really want to get a good grasp on why things are bad and how they're affecting kids and how they're affecting adults and things like that. So it's much more studied. It's much more robust in the research that's been done. So let's go ahead and get into it. So our first article that we're going to talk about is, okay, how about we talk about this article here from the BBC. What better publication? Great publication. Love it. Now, BBC Future, and this is a story that was just posted early last year, January 2018, saying that is social media bad for you, the evidence and the unknowns, what the science suggests so far about the impact of platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram on your mental well-being. And ironically, for everyone out there who's not looking at the video portion, yeah, right there below the headline, you can check out their Facebook page, Twitter page, Reddit page, LinkedIn, Google+, and more. Yeah, hey, it's you have to do it if you're a business, but at the same time, we're about to get into the negatives of social media. Now, 3 billion people, and remember, this was written about a year ago, so it's a little dated, but not too bad. 3 billion people, around 40% of the world's population, use online social media. And we're spending an average of 2 hours every day sharing, liking, tweeting, and updating on these platforms, according to some reports, saying that that breaks down to around 500,000 tweets and Snapchat photos shared every minute. 500,000. People love to share. But here are the caveats. And of course, as the BBC mentioned, here's what the evidence suggests. Facebook saying that since social media is relatively new to us, conclusive findings are limited. The research that does exist mainly relies on self-reporting, which can often be flawed. And the majority of studies focus on Facebook. That said, this is a fast-growing area of research, and clues are beginning to emerge. BBC Future reviews the findings of some of the science so far. And I think here's a big one, of course. Stress. People use social media to vent about everything from customer service to politics, but the downside to this is that our feeds often resemble an endless stream of stress. In 2015, researchers at the Pew Research Center, based in Washington, D.C., sought to find out if social media includes more stress than it relieves. And in the survey of 1,800 people, women reported being more stressed than men. Twitter was found to be a significant contributor because it increases their awareness of other people's stress. Obviously, if you have something that is really ticking you off, is really is really rubbing you the wrong way, then hey, you're going to go to Twitter. Just the other day, my own mother was talking about, she was looking at like flower bouquets and things like that on Pinterest. That was the one. And she said that she was so, or take it back. I think it was Etsy, Etsy, whatever it's called, probably Etsy. She was looking at wedding supplies and things like that on Etsy, and the thing that got her so disappointed was that all of the comments were, I don't need this anymore. I want a refund. This wasn't exactly how I wanted it. It was continuous negativity in the comments. And that's really all it was. It was beautiful pictures and beautiful products and things like that. But it was all about, hey, I'm not happy. Give me my money back. I want free stuff. I want this. I want that. It really shows, just at a cursory glance. And obviously, like I said, if you are feeling a strong emotion, and we feel anger and very, very strong emotions, you are more likely to go and tweet about that, share that, post that, reblog that, take a picture of that. It's just going to be your first reaction. So, as they said, but Twitter also acted as a coping mechanism, and the more women used it, the less stressed they were. The same effect wasn't found in men, whom the researchers said had a more distant relationship with social media. Overall, the researchers concluded that social media was linked to modestly lower levels of stress. Interesting. But at the same time, hey, women and men, and like they said, these things are self-reported. Now, next one, mood. If you find yourself crabby, hey, maybe you're spending too much time on social media. In 2014, researchers in Austria found that participants reported lower moods after using Facebook for 20 minutes compared to those who just browsed the internet. The study suggested that people felt that way because they saw it as a waste of time. A good or bad mood may also spread between people of social media, and this is according to the University of California, who assessed the emotional content of over 1 billion status updates of more than 100 million Facebook users between 2009 and 2012. And by the way, I remember that one. They were looking for keywords that indicated a positive happy mood and a negative sad mood, and there was a cascading effect when something bad happened. Especially on like a global scale or things like that, such as a national tragedy or such as maybe the fire that happened with Notre Dame. Moods worldwide were reportedly lower, so that's very, very possible. Bad weather increases the number of negative posts by 1%. Fun story. And the researchers found that one negative post by someone in a rainy city influenced another 1.3 negative posts by friends living in drier cities. The better news is that happy posts had a stronger influence. Each one inspired 1.75 more happy posts. So whether a happy post translates to a genuine boost in mood, however, remains unclear. But overall, it's saying that your mood can be negatively affected by posts. And we have another article concerning that, although it does seem to be more aimed towards teens and kids. But we also have another article really, really, really well written about what happens when you quit social media. And maybe it's something that you guys should try. It's also called detoxing or detox social media. We're going to get into how you can do that and more. So obviously, coming right up to the break, everyone. Fun show so far, but we're going to continue this article. And then as soon as the music starts, we're going to go to break, come back, and continue on with our all-encompassing look of social media. So your mood can be affected. Next one, anxiety. Researchers have looked at general anxiety provoked by social media, characterized by feelings of restlessness and worry, and trouble sleeping and concentrating. A study published in the journal Computers and Human Behavior found that people who report using 7 or more social media platforms were more than 3 times as likely as people who use 0 to 2 platforms to have high levels of general anxiety symptoms. Of course, whenever you see a statistic like that, you have to ask causation, correlation. Is that because you have higher levels of anxiety, so you look for ways to distract yourself, so you sign up for more platforms? Or is it that using these platforms induces fear of missing out? Hey, we have to figure that out. But everyone, hey, we'll be right back. Music in the background means that we have to take a break, commercial break, and then everyone, we will continue on Computer America, all things social media. Everyone, stay tuned. Oh, and like us on Facebook.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour, and ladies and gentlemen, if you missed any part of our conversation so far today, highly encourage you to go back and check out the recorded part of the show. Wherever podcasts are heard, or of course on YouTube, you can find today's entire show rebroadcast. And hey, we're covering everything social media. So if you are an avid user and maybe you're feeling something is off, or maybe you don't want to get into it and you feel like, hey, I've never used it, never want to, there's good and bad. There's definitely good and bad about social media, and it's really about how you approach it. And of course, there are a lot of ways to do it wrong. So that's what we're getting into. Something that we advocate for plenty of times. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter, but at the same time, hey, go in with a clear head. So we go ahead, continue on. We are doing this article from the BBC, BBC Future actually, and yeah, we're talking about anxiety, saying that people who use a lot of social media as opposed to those who use little to no social media have much higher rates, or at least self-identified as having higher rates of general anxiety symptoms. That said, it's unclear if and how social media causes anxiety. Researchers from the Babes Bolyai University in Romania reviewed existing research on the relationship between social media and anxiety and social networking in 2016, and the results were mixed. They concluded that more research needs to be done, which, after setting up the show and finding all these articles and checking this out, a lot of this is self-reported because, funny enough, it's you're checking out social media, and how do you connect with social media users? Well, you probably reach out on social media, and therefore you are getting your audience from those who actively engage in it. Of course, you can find students and things like that at universities, and you can ask people on the streets or or just like random surveys and what have you. But your number one most cost-effective way to get in touch with people is going to be to use the very platform that you are trying to study. So the next one, and this is a big one, depression. So while some studies have found a link between depression and social media use, there is emerging research into how social media can actually be a force for good. Two studies involving 700 students found that depressive symptoms such as low mood and feeling worthlessness and hopelessness were linked to the quality of online interactions. Researchers found higher levels of depressive symptoms among those who reportedly have more negative interactions. So clearly, if your social media is filled with either fighting or engaging in long drawn out debates or a lot of silence and one-sided discussions, then hey, that can have a serious effect on your mood and of course depression offline as well, not just online. A similar study conducted in 2016 involving about 1,700 people found a threefold risk of depression and anxiety among people who use the most social media platforms. Reasons for this, they suggested, include cyberbullying, having a distorted view of other people's lives, and feeling like time spent on social media is a waste. So I really want to address those actually all three of those. So the first one, cyberbullying. Obviously, I'm sure that we have all been in that situation. The keyboard warrior, those who feel safe behind the screen, and I'm sure it took everything in your body to not scream at them. You wouldn't be so cocky if you weren't safe behind a computer somewhere. That's very true. I've seen people say stuff online that they would never say in person to another person. I think disassociating or being able to separate that the person you're engaging with online isn't even really a person anymore happens all the time. And you will tell them to do things that you would never, ever, ever, ever say to another actual human being. But people are very good at making that distinction that, it's just some loser on their online. It doesn't matter. When at the end of the day, it matters. That person then has to log off their computer and continue on with their lives, and whatever bad energy that you put into them, hey, they have to carry that around. Even if they say that it doesn't affect them, in a lot of ways, it definitely does. So first one, cyberbullying, completely get that, and it happens. It happens. Be careful of it. And I'm not saying that anyone here in the Computer America audience will do that, but just be nicer. All right, so the second one, distorted view of other people's lives. This is really the one thing that I found myself, kind of distancing from social media, where I would check my Facebook feed, and especially being a 20-something-year-old, everyone has everything going for them. They're getting their career started. They're getting married. They have cute new puppies. They're getting new cars. They're moving to new exciting places. They're going on vacation. They're making the best looking pizza, or they're eating the best looking pizza you've ever seen. But one thing you really don't notice is that they only post a picture about once every 2 days. And if you haven't caught up with your friend in a couple of months and you look through their Facebook feed, suddenly their Facebook feed looks like some kind of weird daytime television show about how to live the best life that you possibly can. It's nothing but the positives, because no one really wants to put, at least in the form of pictures or posts or things that you share. In a lot of cases, no one wants to put that, hey, I'm having stomach cramps, this is the worst day ever, or hey, I just I ruined the dishes, or something like that. Or I don't feel like getting out of bed. The bad stuff never makes it through that filter about what gets shared on social media. So seeing these idyllic personas that everyone was putting up, I knew that wasn't the case. I know that that's not true. No matter how happy and perfect someone's life looks from the outside, they're still struggling with their own problems. Everyone has their own problems on the inside. And that's what you really have to remember, that, hey, it's not just you. You're not alone in having those daily struggles and things like that. It happens to everyone. And social media can make you forget that for a little bit. So Very, very important there. Really want to highlight that. And the next one, feeling like time spent on social media is a waste, which can happen for anything. If you find yourself laying in bed for an hour every morning instead of getting up, taking a shower, and going about your day, instead an hour rolls by, you're still in bed, you're playing on your phone, it's whatever. You're not going to be happy with yourself. It's still hitting those dopamine receptors in your brain because you're learning, you are checking things out, you're entertained, you're distracted, but at the same time, it's not the best use of your time. And I don't think anyone ever makes 100% perfect use of their time. But if you feel like what you're doing has no inherent value, then you're going to be upset with yourself. Even if it was the best time that you've ever spent surfing on your phone, you still won't be happy at the end of the day because it's still just surfing on your phone. I don't know many people who have won the lottery after surfing on their phone for 2 hours before bed and got less sleep because of it. So that makes perfect sense. Obviously, spending time on social media, they view it as a waste. Not saying that that's the case. Just again, the first 20 minutes of the show, we really highlighted that social media can actually be a good thing if you go in with the proper mindset, but it can also be a very bad thing if you go in with with that mindset that, hey, I'm just killing time. That's not a good thing. So, next paragraph, however, as BBC Future will explore this month on their like-minded season, scientists are also looking at how social media can be used to diagnose depression, which could help people receive treatment earlier. That's right. Researchers for Microsoft surveyed 476 people and analyzed their Twitter profiles for depressive language, linguistic style, and engagement and emotion. And from this, they developed a classifier that can accurately predict depression before it causes symptoms in 7 out of 10 cases. So data. Very important. Next one, sleep. Obviously, this has to do with, a number of different aspects. And let's just go ahead and get into it. Sleep. Humans used to spend their evenings in darkness, but now they're surrounded by artificial lighting all day and all night. If you have a phone and, you're just checking it every so often, you are getting a huge hit of blue light, which is emitted by smartphones and laptop screens, is said to be the worst culprit. There you go. In other words, if you lie on a pillow at night checking Facebook and Twitter, you're headed for restless sleep. No bueno. And actually, just a quick hint for everyone out there. If you have an iPhone, I'm sure that a lot of other non-iPhones have it. But I know iPhones definitely have it by default. If you go into your settings and you simply hold down the lighting button, you can have night shift on or off, or f.lux if you are on a computer. You can download that program, and it actually orange or red shifts everything so that it's not so blue light intensive, and you can actually get some good sleep. So definitely check out those products. But hey, for those of you that don't, and there are only a couple billion of you, you're getting bad sleep. Last year, researchers from the University of Pittsburgh asked 1,700 18 to 30-year-olds about their social media sleeping habits, and they found a link with sleep disturbances and concluded blue light had a part to play. How often they logged on rather than the time they spent on social media sites was a higher predictor of disturbed sleep, suggesting an obsessive checking. Yeah, there you go. So researchers say this could be caused by psychological arousal before sleep, as in, hey, what's happening? What's this? What's that? Or, fighting that urge to just kind of drift off slowly into sleep, but rather being bored and trying to find something. You can really mess with your circadian rhythms. Big thing there. So there you go. Their sleep. And again, all these, if you're just joining us, welcome into the show. We're doing everything social media. We're going over some of the negative impacts, and this article from the BBC does a pretty good job of highlighting a lot of the negative ones. And we have some other articles to back this up. And then we're going to talk about some stories about what happens when you quit social media. There are plenty of stories out there that talk about that, and maybe we'll talk about how you can curb it yourself, or detox yourself. We're going to get into that. But let's go ahead, finish up this article. Really, really, really well written. Actually, looking at the time left and looking at what we have. Ladies and gentlemen, this topic may go over our allotted time, but if it does, be sure to check out the podcast or the YouTube video. It will have the entire show. Obviously, if IRN continues on to their other programming, we'll have this available for listen on our website. So let's go ahead, continue on. Addiction. Makes sense. Despite the argument from a few researchers that tweeting may be harder to resist than cigarettes and alcohol, social media addiction isn't included in the latest diagnostic manual for mental health disorders. Although, that's changing all the time, so I would not be surprised. And as you always hear say, you can be addicted to anything. Anything can be addictive, so don't believe the hype. But that said, social media is changing faster. Social media is changing faster than scientists can keep up with, so various groups are trying to study compulsive behavior related to its use. For example, scientists from the Netherlands have invented their own scale to identify possible addiction. And of course, social media addiction does exist. It would be a type of internet addiction, and that is a classified disorder, saying that in 2011, two researchers from Nottingham Trent University in the UK have analyzed 43 previous studies on the matter and conclude that social media addiction is a mental health problem that may require professional treatment. Yes, especially in impressionable minds, those who are first developing, that are looking for that sense of self and belonging and their own identity, being caught up in the quagmire that is social media may require professional treatment. So definitely think about that. They found that excessive usage was linked to relationship problems, worse academic achievement, and less participation in offline communities, and found that those who could be more vulnerable to a social media addiction include those dependent on alcohol, the highly extroverted, and those who use social media to compensate for fewer ties in real life. Obviously, there's a lot of problems there that they were highlighting, such as fewer ties in real life, depending on alcohol, things like that, that you have other underlying problems and they will exacerbate a social media addiction. So definitely something there to think of. So, and again, this is why we're going to talk about the idea of, detoxing or stopping social media. Now, next one, self-esteem. Women's Magazine and their use of underweight and Photoshop models have been long maligned for stirring self-esteem issues among young women. But now social media, with its filters and lightings and clever angles, is taking over as a primary concern among some campaigning groups and charities. Social media sites have make more than half of users feel inadequate, according to a survey of 1,500 people. And it makes them feel unattractive. In 2016, a 2016 study by the researchers at Penn State University suggests that viewing other people's selfies lowered self-esteem because users compared themselves to photos of people looking their happiest. Exactly. It's a highly posed, planned, and well-executed form of photography that is not really indicative of the person it's actually taking a picture of. It's staged, essentially. It's fake. It's much like those underwear models that you see on TV. Not a lot of truth in advertising, but there you go. Saying that, but it's not just selfies that have the potential to dent self-esteem. 1,000 Swedish Facebook users, and this is a study, found that women who spent more time on Facebook reported feeling less happy and confident. The researchers concluded that when Facebook users compare their lives to others that are seemingly more successful, that have more successful careers and happy relationships, they may feel that their own lives are less successful in comparison. I think that's a good word. Comparison. to compare yourself to every one of your friends, family, coworkers, social network. Compare, whether you like it or not, you compare yourself to everyone that you meet and everything that you see. How does that relate to me? Is this better? Is this good? Is this, can I do something different? We all reflect. And if you only see everyone's highlight reel, you're comparing that to your own everyday, your own minutia. So very important. But one small study hinted that viewing your own profile, not others, might offer ego boost. Saying at Cornell University, they put only 63, so very, very small study, 63 students into different groups. Some sat with a mirror placed against a computer screen, for instance, while others sat in front of their own Facebook profiles. And Facebook had a positive effect on self-esteem compared to other activities that boost self-awareness. Mirrors and photos, the researchers explained, make us compare ourselves to social standards, whereas looking at our own Facebook profiles might boost self-esteem because it's easier to control how we're presented to the world. There you go. And let's see. So obviously a couple more here, and we're definitely going to run late at this point. Next one, we'll go ahead and breeze right through it. Well-being. In a study from 2013, researchers texted 79 participants 5 times a day for 14 days, asking them how they felt and how much they'd used Facebook since the last text. The more time that people spent on the site, the worse they felt later on, and the more their life satisfaction declined over time. But other researchers found that for some people, social media can help boost their well-being. Marketing researchers Jonah Berger and Eva Buchel, there we go, found that people who are emotionally unstable are more likely to post about their emotions, which can help them receive support and bounce back after negative experiences. Next one, relationships. Obviously, everyone out there, if let's see, one small study, researchers writing in the Journal of Science and Personal Relationship tasked 34 pairs of strangers to have a 10-minute conversation about an interesting event that happened to them recently. Each pair sat in private booths, and half had a mobile phone on the top of their table. Those with a phone in eyeshot were less positive when recalling their interactions afterwards, had less meaningful conversations, and reported feeling less close to their partners than the others, who had a notebook on top of the table instead. Romantic relationships aren't immune. Researchers at the University of Guelph in Canada surveyed 300 people in 2009, and how likely are you to become jealous after your partner has added an unknown member of the opposite sex? So obviously, if you have a girlfriend and they add someone new that you didn't know on their Facebook profile and it was a guy, obviously they're saying here that women spent much more time on Facebook than men, and they experienced significantly more jealousy when this happened. The researchers concluded that they felt Facebook environment created these feelings and enhanced concerns about the quality of their relationship because it puts it on display. It puts it front and center. This is what happens. There you go. More loneliness. They mentioned a study here that the more time that they spent on Facebook and social media, the less they felt connected to actual relationships, because obviously spending time with people in person does not even compare to spending it with someone online. Face-to-face time, much, much, much more interactive. So there's that article, and sorry that took so long, but it was a very well-written article, very, very well-sourced. We'll include that. And hey, we'll also include another article, this one here from simplylearn.com. And this one full of nice infographics and things like that really show that, hey, Facebook is, or I should say social media is, really affecting people. So with only about 5 minutes left, let's go ahead and talk about, really quick here, we're going to include the story of a gentleman who spent 31 days without social media. And this is something that I think a lot of you out there should try if you have been feeling a lot of anxiety towards social media, or you just aren't happy with social media. Maybe taking some time apart and reflecting could do you a lot of good. I've done this. It's definitely something you could try. But let's go ahead and just kind of read the summation, saying that I'm not going to completely quit using social media, and this is by Wandering Aimfully, saying that I'm not going to completely quit social media, but I'm going to take control of my use of social media. Not being on social media for a month really opened my eyes to feelings and motivations I have using Twitter, Facebook, etc. Immediately, I felt a sense of freedom. To me, that's a huge takeaway. It literally felt like ripping shackles off my mind and body. And really, this highlight here really shows that this could be a boon for you. Saying, quote, my productivity, attention span, and clarity of thought all increased greatly with living without social media for a month. I felt like I broke bad habits, and these include refreshing feeds and checking notifications in a very short period of time. If all this can be done in 30 days, well, it could very well be worth a try. And actually, the end of this article is what gave me this idea of some of these tools that you can use to help curb your social media. And and actually, we're also going to include this article here at the end that shows how to delete other social media profiles, because hey, let's face it, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, so on and so forth, especially Snapchat. I've noticed about that one, when I deleted it months ago, they don't want you to delete it, and they'll delete it, and then 30 days later it will finally be deleted. Like they give you a whole month to second guess whether or not you actually want to do this. So deleting these things is not the easiest thing to do, and there is a difference between deactivating and deleting. So make very clear. So we're going to include this article from Make Use Of, and it's how to delete accounts through the platform. They include Facebook, they include Twitter, they include Instagram, they include Snapchat, Google Plus, which really isn't a thing anymore because, hey, a year ago it mattered. Today, not so much. And then check this out, there's actually a website that will delete accounts for you. And it's a it's a website called Deseat.me. So DESEAT.me, Deseat.me. And it will let you delete your presence from so many services, and you can actually send removal requests of your data that has been captured on social media. You can actually send them through this service as well. So definitely wanted to bring this to your attention as well. And there's so much to talk about when it comes to social media and use, and bad use and good use. We have a lot more bad uses. Definitely check out the show notes. We're going to include all this material. And then on top of that, we didn't even get into things like privacy, oversharing, so on and so forth. There are real pitfalls. So there you go. With that being said, let's see, any last words I want to say about this? Definitely check out the show notes. Like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, like us on Instagram. But really, I truly and honestly mean this. Social media, there's good and there's bad. If you don't feel like you are using it properly, you're the only one who can make that call. And we're living in a day and age that social media has never quite been what it currently is. So you can't look and say, well, what did my parents do? What did my grandparents do? This is completely new territory, and you have to make the best decision for you. And I think in some cases, hey, if nothing else, it doesn't hurt to take a couple of weeks away from social media. And if you think that taking a couple of weeks away from social media is going to hurt you, then you are exactly the kind of person that needs to take that time away. So everyone, the music in the background means that we are done here. Thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. If you missed any part of today's show, wherever podcasts are heard, check it out. And tomorrow on the show, we have Scott Schober. He is our cybersecurity expert. We will be going over everything cybersecurity, a lot of great topics, a lot of great articles. Everyone, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Be happy. And we will catch you here Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Have a great one. Bye-bye.